we're excited about that one because it's our first opportunity to be evaluated against performance-based standards, which is a little different than what they have been in the past. So we're looking forward to that opportunity and hopeful that we'll score a representative score as well coming here in April.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's
Excuse me 1 second, Commissioner. Representative Calfee, you wanted personal order?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to echo what you said about your confidence in Commissioner Henry. I've known him for a long, long time. And if I could go out of order, I'd like to recognize some of my constituents.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry being the first one, and his lovely wife Pat in the pink in the back, and my wife Marilyn over here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's not only, you know, important that we have good facilities, but it's also important to reduce the size of those. And Tennessee led the nation from 1997 to 2010 in reducing populations in institutions. And of all the 41 states, we decreased. We had a huge decrease. It dropped by some 66%. Now, one reason that's important is because the more you mix difficult kids, the more their difficulties are. I mean, you know, people, they feed off of each other. It was like Tennessee prep school when I was growing up, and they continually threatened me with sending me to reform school. That's what it was. It was a 1,500 kid facility here in Nashville. And if you weren't tough when you got there, you were when you left. And that's why foster care is so much better than these places if they're eligible to go, because you go to regular school, you go to regular doctors, you have regular friends. You know, it's just so much better to be part of the family. So we will continue to get these kids well and hopefully be able to get them out of those things as quickly as we can. The next page, you see the numbers of juveniles committed to DCS custody, and if you'll notice that this is not a compilation of the numbers, but the numbers that were admitted each year from 2004 to 2012. As you'll see, it's a little bit less than it was way back there, and it reached its height at one point at about 2006. The next is the custody numbers we have, and if you look at 2004, it was over 10,000 kids, and now we have about 8,071 as of January the 13th. That's also a move in the right direction. We actually got down lower than that at one or 2 points, but I think that the difficulty of kids that we have in the drug culture, we've got to work very hard to keep these kids, keep them safe, get them back home, get them repaired as quickly as possible. Full-time positions, as you see, that since 2004, that we've got about 4,300 positions now. In 2004, we had about 4,200 positions. We've also went even up to the high of 5,100 positions in 2008. And this is kind of a chart of the flow of that. This department has been cut, you know, in many cases, but in many cases the number of employees you've got is relative to the privatization that's been done also with this. I'd like to announce that the lawsuit involving John B. that we've been involved with for how many years?
Probably about 15 years.
15 years. Announcing today that lawsuit has been settled. Thank you very much. I've done a lot of work in 30 days on that, and I just wanted you to know
Congratulations.
how long I took to settle it. I'm getting blamed for other stuff. I want to take credit where I can. The Brian A. lawsuit, I think we're on track. We've had a settlement agreement. Now it's up to us to meet certain standards. We've got to have a system that counts the number of kids we have, which is TFACS. We've got a lot of problems with TFACS. We'll be glad to go into that to any extent you want to. Fact is that we think we're on the mend The problem with TFAX can produce the numbers today. We're going to begin to put the numbers out this week about custody and non-custody kids. These numbers will be banked against vital statistics put out by the Department of Health, and if there's any difference between the two, we'll reconcile. It's my understanding last time we put them out that we didn't. This has always been a problem with the department, even back when they had 10 kids and didn't have 10 TFAX. This TFAX system is very unfriendly right now. It has been to the employees, but we're simplifying that. We're moving up 5 years of improvements into the next 6 months. The governor, we've requested, along with Larry Martin's help, that we've requested that those improvements be made. They'll be implemented in August and January, so they'll be fully done. That ought to pretty much put us on a good path to be able to exit this lawsuit, and also put us on a really good path, Mr. Chairman, to keep good records of the kids we've got. Today, the question is not about whether we want to give the facts or not. We didn't have the system set up, and it wasn't answering properly. And one of the reasons why is that we, quite frankly, didn't know how to ask the question. You know, you can ask a computer a question, and if you don't answer it in the right way, ask it in the right way, you can't get the right answer. And I think Lee Gregory's here, which has been here now for a year. He's done a mammoth amount of work in a year. They started out, they pulled the trigger on this system too early. 2010, in October, they pulled the trigger. It had 1,700 problems with it. Lee came in, they've got about 380 something left. None of them are major, but we're working through them. Then people out in the field will have new equipment to work with. We're just piloting a mobile iPad system out there for people. We're going to look at providing iPhones for people out there where they can take a picture when you're out in the field. Right now, they've got the old flip tops, and it's a bad situation. So we're doing a lot of work with TFAX, and I think you'll be proud of it. We'd also like to invite the committee to come over and look at what the capabilities of TFAX are. And I think you'll be surprised that it's not nearly the system that it's let on like it is. Yes, they made some mistakes in reporting, but I think we've got it ready now, and I get a report on a daily basis and have been now for a couple of weeks. It shows that I know exactly where the kids are as far as how many kids in custody, how many in non-custody, and what the different categories are. We've also instituted a policy that if any kid in this state dies, I get a call within an hour, and then I will give you a personal call if it's in your district. The only thing that's complicated about that is the large counties where I don't know exactly who represents the area, so we'll try to work through that as best we can. The DCS progress, we lead the nation in adoptions. That's huge. I mean, it not only is good work, but it saves the state a ton of money. 809 children were adopted through DCS in fiscal year 2012, and up from 761 in 2011. Tennessee is #1 in the country in time for permanency and in custody 24 months and longer. That's a huge figure for us. It's a management figure. It makes people feel good. Being #1 in the country in time for permanency gets a kid back into his routine quicker and faster. The Brian A. lawsuit, in 1910, we had a modified settlement agreement and an exit plan. We're in maintenance now, and that's exactly where you want to be. I think, like I said, that we all met with the parties last week, and I think if they'd had that meeting in January, they would have never went to court. Timeline and data. Significant improvements were made in 2012, including TFAX went from 1,700 documents down to 383. Minor functional defects remain. 82 documented workarounds at the state implementation in August 2010. Only 5 remain to be eliminated in 2013. We've got Lee here. If you've got any questions, we'd be glad to answer them. If not so, Mr. Chairman, we'll move on to the recommended 2014 budget.